preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon. There is a tree that holds the answer to the greatest medical crisis of our time. For 4,500 years, it cured what antibiotics cannot. Every part of it, bark, leaves, seeds, roots, fights bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites simultaneously. It kills the drug-resistant superbugs that are sending patients to die in isolation wards. One tree provides more medicines than an entire pharmacy. Then, in 1994, a corporation and the United States government
what they
tried to own it. They filed a patent claiming they invented what Indian villages had known for 45 centuries.
There is a tree that holds
the tree that belonged
to the
greatest
no one
medical
would
crisis
finally
of our
belong
time.
to someone.
For 4,500
But the tree
years,
does not
it
surrender
cured
easily.
what antibiotics cannot.
This is the story of Neem.
Every part of it, the village
Bark,
pharmacy that
leaves,
defeated an
seeds,
empire,
roots,
the living
fights
antibiotic
bacteria,
factory,
viruses,
viruses, fungi, and parasites
the answer waiting in plain
sight. While
It
pharmaceutical
kills the
companies
drug-resistant
charged
superbugs
$500
that are sending
for
patients
what
to
grows
die
free.
in isolation wards.
The archive opens
One
in
tree
Munich,
provides
Germany.
more
medicines than
March
an
8th,
entire pharmacy.
2005.
Then, in
The European
1994,
Patent Office
a
stands
corporation
before a
and the
decision
United States
that will echo
government
across
tried to
continents.
own it. Patent
They filed a patent
claiming they invented what
043627,
Indian villages had known
filed
for
by the chemical
45
giant
centuries.
W.R. Grace,
The tree
and
that
the United
belonged
States
to no
Department
one
of Agriculture
would finally belong to
The claim?
someone. Exclusive
But the
rights
tree
to a
does not
fungicidal
surrender
method
easily.
extracted from the Neem tree.
This is the story of Neem.
Standing in opposition
The
are
village
3
pharmacy
women
that
who
defeated an
refused to
empire.
let ancient
The living
knowledge
antibiotic
become
factory
corporate
they could not
property.
control.
Dr.
And the
Vandana
answer
Shiva
waiting
from
in plain
India,
sight.
Magda
While
pharmaceutical
Ailments from the
companies
European
charge
Parliament,
$500
Linda
for
Bullard
what
from the
grows
International
free.
Federation of
The
Organic
archive opens
Agriculture
in Munich,
Movements.
Germany. They brought
March 8th,
evidence,
2005.
not lab reports from the 1990s.
The European Patent Office
but
stands before a
Sanskrit
decision
texts from
that will echo
1500
across
years
continents.
before Christ was born.
Patent
EP
Palm leaf
043627
manuscripts
showing extraction methods
filed by the
perfected
chemical
when
giant
Rome was still a
W.R.
village.
Grace
and the United
Testimonies
States
from
Department of
Indian
Agriculture,
farmers
whose ancestors
The claim?
used Neem,
Exclusive rights to a fungicidal method
extracted from the Neem tree.
The corporation argued
Standing
that
in
their
opposition are
extraction
3
method was
women
novel,
who
that
refused
because
to
they
let
purified
ancient
the
knowledge
compound in a
become
modern
corporate
lab.
property. They had invented
Dr. Vandana Shiva from
The
India,
Patent Office looked at the
Magda
ancient
Ailments
texts
from the European Parliament,
After 10 years
Linda
of legal
Bullard
battles
from the International
they
Federation of Organic Agriculture
revoked.
Movements.
The
They
reason
brought
stated
evidence,
in official
not
documents
lab
was lack
reports
of
from
from
the
the
1990s.
This knowledge was
But
not
Sanskrit
new.
texts
It had
from
never been
1500 years
It was
before
written in the
Christ
soil
was
of
born.
India for
Palm
45
leaf
centuries.
manuscripts showing
W.R.
extraction
Grace
methods
had
perfected
tried to
when
patent
Rome
the sun
was still a village
and lost. Testimonies from Indian
But to
farmers
understand
whose
why they
ancestors
wanted to
used
own
Neem
it,
to
you
protect
have to
crops
understand
for
what this
100
tree can do.
generations.
The
Rewind
corporation
4,000
argued
years
that
to
their
the Indus
extraction
Valley.
method was
A
novel.
tree grows
that
along the
because they
riverside.
purified the
Its
compound
branches
in a
spread
modern
80
lab,
feet wide.
They had invented
Its
it.
roots dive deep into
The
earth.
Patent Office
that looked
kills
at the
lesser
ancient
plants.
texts. The people
After
call
10
it
years
Nimba,
of legal battle,
the bestower of
they
good
ruled.
health. The Persians
Patent
call it
revoked.
Azad Darakht.
The reason
Hind,
stated in official
the free
documents
tree
was
of
lack
India.
of novelty.
Free,
This
because
knowledge
it
was not
belongs to
new.
everyone.
It had
and
never been
no
hidden.
one. It was written in
Every
the soil
morning,
of
villagers
India
snap
for
twigs
45
from the tree
centuries
and chew the ends
W.R.
into brushes.
Grace had tried to
Their
patent
teeth
the
stay
sun
strong
and lost. Their gums do not
But to
bleed.
understand why they wanted
Infections
to
that
own
kill
it,
others never
you have
take
to
root.
understand what this tree
When
can
smallpox
do.
sweeps through
Rewind
villages,
4,000
they hang
years
neem
to the
branches
Indus Valley.
above doorways.
A tree grows along
the
the
air
riverside.
itself becomes
Its branches
medicine.
spread 80 feet wide.
When locusts
its
arrive
roots
in
dive
clouds that
deep
darken
into
the
earth
sun
that kills
they devour
lesser
every
plants.
crop in sight.
The people call it
Nimba,
the
rice,
bestower of good health.
vegetables turned
The
to
Persians
dust.
call it
But
Azad
the Neem
Darakht
trees
Hind,
stand untouched.
the free tree of India.
The insects
Free
starve
because
rather
it
than
belongs
eat the
to
leaves.
everyone and no one.
By 1500 BC,
Every morning,
the
villagers
Karaka
snap
Samhita,
twigs from the tree,
the foundational
and chew
text
the
of
ends into
Ayurveda,
brushes.
lists Neem
Their
as
teeth stay
Sarva
strong.
Roga Nivarini. Their gums do
The
not
universal
bleed.
healer of all
Infections that kill
ailments.
others never
This
take
was
root.
not superstition.
When smallpox
It was
sweeps
observation
through
refined
villages,
across
they hang
centuries,
neem branches
recorded
above
in
doorways.
texts that would
The air
outlast
itself
empires.
becomes medicine.
The tree protected villages
When
for
locusts arrive
4,000
in
years.
clouds that darken the
Then
sun,
the world
they
decided
devour
it
every
needed
crop in
proof.
sight.
Wheat.
In the 1920s,
Rice.
a German
Vegetables
entomologist working
turned
in
to
Sudan
dust.
watched locusts
But the
destroy
neem trees
every
stand
plant in sight.
untouched.
corn,
the
sorghum,
insects
cassava,
rather
everything,
than eat the leaves.
except one. By 1500
Neem tree.
BC, the Karaka
He isolated
Samhita,
the compound
the foundational
responsible
text of
as a
Ayurveda, lists
a
Neem
molecule
as
so
Sarva
complex it
Roga
took
Nivarini,
chemists
another 50 years
the universal
just to map
healer
its
of
structure.
all ailments.
It disrupts insect
This was not
hormones,
superstition.
stops them from
It
feeding,
was observation
prevents them
refined
from
across
reproducing.
centuries.
Recorded
But the tree
in
does not
texts
just
that would
stop
outlast
insects.
empires.
It stops
The
us
tree
from dying.
protected villages for 4,000 years.
Here is the secret.
Then the
pharmaceutical
world
industry
decided
hates.
it needed proof.
A modern antibiotic is a single
In the
molecule.
1920s, a German entomologist
Penicillin,
working in Sudan
tetracycline,
watched locusts destroy
amoxicillin.
every plant in sight.
One compound
Corn,
attacking
sorghum,
bacteria
cassava,
through one
everything,
specific pathway.
except one.
Because it is a single attack.
Neem tree.
Bacteria can figure it out.
He isolated the
mutate,
compound
they
responsible,
evolve,
azadirachtin.
They
A
become
molecule so
resistant.
complex it took chemists
Neem
another
is
50
different.
years just to
Neem
map its
is not
structure.
one molecule.
It disrupts
It is
insect
300.
hormones, stops them from
Azadirachtin,
feeding, prevents them
nimbin,
from reproducing.
yadunin,
But the tree does not just stop
300
insects. bioactive
It
compounds
stops
working
us from dying.
simultaneously, each attacking
Here
through
is
a
the
different
secret
pathway.
the pharmaceutical industry hates.
When you use Neem,
a modern
you are not
antibiotic
hitting
is a
bacteria
single
with a sniper
molecule.
rifle. You are hitting it with an
Penicillin,
army. Some
tetracycline,
compounds shatter the cell
amoxicillin.
wall. Others strangle
One compound
protein
attacking
synthesis.
bacteria,
Others
through one
scramble
specific
DNA
pathway.
replication.
Because it is
Others
a single
dissolve
attack.
the biofilms.
Bacteria can
the
figure
protective
it out.
shields
They
bacteria
mutate,
build to
they
hide from
evolve,
antibiotics.
they adapt.
Bacteria
become
cannot
resistant.
mutate fast enough to defend
Neem
against
is different.
300 simultaneous
Neem is not
attacks.
one molecule.
Evolution
It is
needs predictable
300.
pressure. A single threat
Azadirachtin,
to adapt against.
nimbin, yadunin,
Neem provides
quercetin.
chaos. 300 bioactive
2022,
compounds working
researchers
simultaneously,
confirmed what villages
each attacking
knew for
through a
millennia.
different pathway. Neem leaf extract
When you use
kills
Neem,
you are not
MRSA,
hitting bacteria
the
with a sniper
methicillin-resistant
rifle. You are hitting it with an army.
simple cuts into
Some
death
compounds
sentences
shatter
in
the cell
modern
wall.
hospitals.
Others
At
concentrations as low as 4
synthesis.
milligrams
Others
per
scramble
milliliter.
DNA
It
replication.
destroys
Others
drug-resistant
dissolve the
Escherichia
biofilms,
coli
the
and
protective
salmonella,
shields bacteria
and the
build
parasites
to
that
hide
cause
from
malaria.
antibiotics.
And it does
Bacteria
this without
cannot mutate
creating
fast
resistance
enough
to defend against
4,500
4,500 years
attacks.
of use. Evolution
No
needs predictable
adaptation.
pressure,
No
a single
immunity.
threat to adapt against.
The bacteria never
Neem
learn.
provides chaos.
So why is it not in your pharmacy?
In 2022,
Why, when the
researchers
CDC
confirmed
warns
what
we are
villages
entering a
knew for
post-antibiotic
millennia.
era?
Neem leaf
When
extract
doctors watch
kills
patients die from
MRSA,
infections that should
the
be
methicillin-resistant superbug
Are we not
that
planting
turns
this
simple
tree on
cuts
every
into death
corner?
sentences in modern
The answer is
hospitals?
simple and brutal.
At concentrations as
You
low as
cannot
4
patent a
milligrams
plant.
per milliliter.
Pharmaceutical companies
It
need
destroys
20 years of
drug-resistant
patent protection
Escherichia
to
coli
justify
and
the $2 billion it costs
and the
to develop
parasites
a new
that
drug.
cause malaria.
They need
And it does this
exclusivity.
without
They need
creating
a monopoly.
resistance.
Neem offers none of
4,500 years of use.
It grows wild.
No adaptation.
Anyone can plant
no
a seed.
immunity.
Anyone can harvest the
The
leaves.
bacteria
Anyone
never
can
learn.
brew the tea. So why is
There
it
is
not
no
in your
profit
pharmacy?
margin in a cure that grows
Why,
in your
when the
backyard?
CDC warns
So
we
the
are
suppression
entering a
happens not through
post-antibiotic
fire
era?
or force,
When
but
doctors
through
watch patients die
paperwork.
from infections that should
In the
be
United
trivial.
States, the
Are we not
FDA
planting this
classifies
tree
Neem
on every
as
corner?
a dietary supplement
The answer
or
is
cosmetic.
simple and brutal.
That means a company
cannot
can
sell
patent
it,
a plant,
but they cannot tell
pharmaceutical
you what it
companies
does.
need 20
If you
years
bottle
of patent
Neem
protection
capsules
to
you
justify
cannot
the
claim
$2
it
billion
cures infection
it
on
costs
the
to
label.
develop a new drug.
You can only say it
They need
supports
exclusivity.
immune health.
They need
Vague,
a monopoly.
meaningless. Neem offers none
Ignored
of
by
that.
every doctor trained
It
to
grows
prescribe
wild.
only
Anyone can plant a
FDA-approved
seed.
drugs.
Anyone can
To make
harvest
a
the
medical
leaves.
claim,
Anyone
to
can
say
brew
this
the tea.
kills MRSA.
There is no profit
you
margin
need
in a cure
FDA
that
drug
grows
approval
in your backyard.
That requires
So the
phase
suppression
1,
happens
phase
not
2,
through fire
and
or
phase
force,
3 clinical
but through
trials costing a
paperwork.
minimum of $500
In the United
million.
States,
The FDA
no company will
classifies
spend
$500
Neem as a
million
dietary
testing a
supplement
tree
or
that their
cosmetic.
competitor can sell.
That means
a
a company
$10
can
the
sell it,
day after
but they
approval.
cannot tell you what it does.
The economics are
If you bottle
impossible by
Neem
design.
capsules, you cannot
So Neem
claim it
remains
cures
in legal
infection on the
limbo.
label.
Proven
You can
by
only
history,
say it
supports
confirmed by
immune
science.
health.
Vague,
Exiled by a system
meaningless,
that confuses profit
ignored
with
by
progress.
every doctor trained to prescribe
Meanwhile,
only
the crisis
FDA
accelerates.
approved drugs.
The last
to
new
make a
class
medical
of
claim
antibiotics
to
was
say this
discovered
kills
in 1987.
MRSA
Nothing
fundamentally
new
new
in nearly
approval.
40 years. That requires phase 1.
The pipeline is not
phase
just
2,
dry,
and phase 3
abandoned.
clinical trials costing
Bacteria
a minimum of
are
$500 million. The CDC
No company
reports
will spend
$2.8 million antibiotic
testing a
resistant
tree
infections
that their
every
competitor
year
can
in
sell
the United
for
States
$10
alone. The day after approval. 35,000 people
The
die.
economics are impossible
Not from
by
the infection
design.
itself,
So
but from
Neem
our
remains
inability
in
to
legal
treat
limbo.
it. Proven
Infections
by
that
history,
penicillin
cured in
confirmed by
1950,
science,
now require
exiled
drug
by a
system
so
that
toxic
confuse
they
its
destroy
profit with
kidneys.
progress. We are treating pneumonia
Meanwhile,
with medications
the
that
crisis
feel like
accelerates.
chemotherapy because
The
the
last
last
new
new
class
class
of
of
antibiotics
antibiotics was discovered in
Doctors call
1987.
these
last resort
Nothing fundamentally
antibiotics.
new in nearly 40
But what happens
years.
when the last resort
The pipeline
fails?
is not just dry,
The answer is already
it is
appearing in
abandoned.
hospitals.
Bacteria
Patients placed
are
in
winning.
isolation.
The
Infections
CDC
spreading
reports
through surgical
2.8
wards.
million
Bacteria that
antibiotic-resistant
laugh at
infections
every drug
year
we
in the
throw at
United
them.
States alone.
And yet, 35,000
solution
people
exists.
die. Not
A
from
study
the
in
infection itself,
2021
but from our
confirmed that
inability
when
to
you
treat
combine
Neem extract
infections that
with failing
penicillin cured in
antibiotics,
1950
the drugs become
now
powerful
require
again.
drugs so toxic
The Neem
they
does
destroy
not cure
kidneys.
alone. We are
It
treating
weakens
pneumonia
the
with
bacteria's
medications
defenses.
that feel like
It
chemotherapy
strips away the
because the
biofilm.
gentle drugs no longer
It
work.
opens the door so the
Doctors
old
call
drugs
these
can
last
finish the
resort
job.
antibiotics. It is the bridge
But what
between
happens
what
when the
worked
last
and
resort
what we
fails?
need next. The answer is already
But we are not
appearing in
crossing it.
hospitals. Instead, we have a
Patients
system
placed
that
in
prioritizes
isolation,
novelty over
infections
efficacy,
spreading through
patents
surgical
over patients,
wards,
bacteria
control
that
over
laugh
cure,
at every drug
a
we
system
throw
that
at
would
them.
rather invent a
And yet,
synthetic molecule.
the solution
that fails
exists.
in 5 years.
A study in 2021
this work for
confirmed that
5,000
when you
years.
combine Neem extract
But the tree does
with
not
failing
care about our
antibiotics,
systems.
the drugs become
It grows in
powerful
India,
again.
where
The
18
Neem
million
does not
trees
cure
line the
alone.
streets of villages
It
and
weakens
cities.
the bacteria's
It grows in
defenses.
sub-Saharan
It
Africa,
strips away the
where its roots
biofilm.
hold back the
It
Sahara
opens
Desert.
the door so the
It
old
grows in
drugs
South
can
America,
finish the
Southeast
job.
Asia, Australia.
It is the bridge between
The United
what
Nations
worked
called
and what
it
we need
the tree
next.
of the 21st century.
But we are
in
not crossing it.
1992.
Instead, we have a system that
34 years
prioritizes
later,
novelty
we
over
still have not
efficacy.
listened.
Patents over
Every
patients.
tree is a factory
Control
producing
over
300
cure.
medicines.
A system that would
simultaneously.
rather invent a
Every seed
synthetic
contains
molecule
the genetic
that
code
fails in
to defeat
5 years
superbugs.
than admit a tree.
Every
has been
village
doing
with a
this
Neem
work for
tree has a
5,000
pharmacy
years.
that never closes,
But
never
the tree
runs
does
out
not
of
care
stock,
about
never
our
demands
systems.
payment.
It grows in
The
India,
biopiracy
where
battle of
18 million
2005
trees line the
proved
streets of
something
villages and cities.
The law
It
can
grows
stop
in
a corporation
sub-Saharan
from
Africa,
owning the tree,
where its roots hold back
but it
the
cannot
Sahara
force
Desert.
the system to use it.
It grows in South
The
America.
knowledge survives
Southeast
not
Asia,
in research
Australia,
journals or hospital
The
formularies,
United Nations called
but
it
in practice,
the tree of the 21st
in the hands
century
of grandmothers
in
who still crush
1992.
the leaves into paste for infected
34
wounds.
years later, we
In
still
the
have
farmers
not
who
listened.
still spray neem oil
Every
to
tree
save
is a
their
factory
crops
producing
without poison.
300 medicines.
In the villages where a
simultaneously.
single tree protects
Every
an
seed
entire
contains
community
the genetic
from
code
diseases
to
that
defeat
send city
superbugs.
dwellers to emergency
Every
rooms.
village with a neem tree
When the
has a
antibiotics
pharmacy
finally
that never
fail
closes,
completely,
never runs out
when the
of stock,
superbugs
never
overwhelm
demands
the
payment.
last chemical defenses
The
we have built,
biopiracy battle
when
of
hospitals become
2005
places
proved
people
something
fear
critical.
to enter,
The neem
the law
tree
can stop
will
a corporation
still
from
be there,
owning the tree, growing
but
in
it
the
cannot
heat,
force the system
producing
to use
its
it. 300
The knowledge
compounds,
survives not in research
waiting for us
journals
to
or
remember
hospital
what we
formularies,
pretended to
but in
forget.
practice. Not
In the
because
hands
it was
of grandmothers
rediscovered
who
by
still
science,
crush the
because
leaves
it
into
never
paste
left.
for infected wounds.
Because you cannot kill
In the
farmers who
knowledge
still
that
spray
lives in
neem
the soil.
oil to save their crops
The
without
answer
poison.
was never lost.
In the
Just
villages where a
ignored by
single
those
tree
who
protects
needed
an entire
ownership
community
more than they
from
needed a
diseases
cure.
that send city dwellers to emergency
If this vault
rooms.
opened something for
When
you,
the antibiotics
subscribe
finally
to
fail
nature's
completely, when the superbugs overwhelm the last chemical defenses we have built, when hospitals become places people fear to enter, the neem tree will still be there, growing in the heat, producing its 300 compounds, waiting for us to remember what we pretended to forget. Not because it was rediscovered by science, because it never left. Because you cannot kill knowledge that lives in the soil. The answer was never lost, just ignored by those who needed ownership more than they needed a cure. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to Nature's